Tottenham's new attacking plan could be genius. I'm going to break that down in this video, show you what I think Tottenham's 11 will be for the first game of the season against Leicester. If you enjoy this content, please do go down and let me know your thoughts on these new signings. Make sure you drop a like. The road to 20,000 subscribers is well and truly on. We are steamrolling our way towards 18,000, over 400 away. Just over 400 away from it in 18,000. We started this channel back in March. So big up to every single one of you. The growth has been absolutely ridiculous. Now, Tottenham last season started off the campaign ridiculously. We won 9 out of our first 10 games. We looked electric. Of course, we had no European football, so that's going to be the big question mark. How does Ange Postecoglou rotate between Europa League, Premier League, FA Cup, and League Cup? Now, Paul O'Keefe was on a podcast last night called The Last Word on Spurs. If you don't know who Paul O'Keefe is, he's a very good journalist. When it comes to Tottenham information, he 99.9% of the time is absolutely bang on. And he spoke about 2 attacking players that genuinely could change the dynamic of the way Tottenham play. Now, I'm going to come out and say on my other channel, I've been very critical of the way that the ownership have acted in the last 20 odd years. We've got a lot of money available to spend. And so far, we've brought in Archie Gray, Bergvall, Timo Werner, and a Korean youngster. Now, none of those players really change the way the first 11 could be next season. But these 2 signings do. And, of course, anything in the Tottenham fan base is divided. But the way Tottenham could play next season genuinely, in my opinion, puts us back into the Champions League. It generally does. Our attack last season, Brennan Johnson on the right, Heung-min Son or Werner on the left, Son up front or Richarlison. And what we really lacked, in my opinion, at times, was a clinical threat. Now, we all know Tottenham's best finisher, and you don't have to be a brain surgeon, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that our best finisher is Heung-min Son. Heung-min Son's now a year older, and it's for him, it's about how do we get the best out of Heung-min Son when he's, let's be honest, he's getting into his early 30s now. He's 32. His best element of his game is that finishing. Now, Timo Werner's best ability is getting down to the byline, putting in a low cross, similar to Brennan Johnson. He's very, very good at that as well. What we need is a more direct winger that can cut in, create a chance, or get a shot away. Now, Arsenal have been linked to this guy. Liverpool have been linked to this guy. But in my opinion, Tottenham need him the most. Now, as you can tell by the thumbnail, that is Pedro Neto. He changes everything on that right-hand side for me at Tottenham. Now, obviously, there will be some concerns about Pedro Neto's injury record since he's been in the Premier League with Wolves. It is slightly concerning. I'm going to be brutally honest. He only played 20 Premier League games last season, and overall, he has missed around 100 games in the last 3 years in a Wolves and a Portugal shirt. He's missed big Europa League games. He's missed big FA Cup games, Euros, World Cup. He's missed a lot of fixtures in and around that Wolves side. Now, for me personally, I look at Tottenham's, before we get into the striker, the 3 areas we need to improve on is a wide player that can play both on the left and the right, a number 9 who is clinical in and around the 6-yard and 18-yard box, and we also need an out-and-out number 6, like a lot of people do. Liverpool, potentially Arsenal, Manchester City need a backup for Rodri. These are like blood diamonds right now. They are like gold dust. Strikers and defensive-minded midfielders. Now, Pedro Neto, for me, when we break down and look at his individual stats, I think he's a very, very technical player. But when you look at him in a Wolves shirt in the Premier League in the last, let's say, the last 5 seasons, he has missed a hell of a lot of football. He's missed a hell of a lot of football. Last year, only played 20 league games. Year before, less than that, 18. Year before that, 13. That is 48 league games in the last 3 seasons. In that time, Brennan Johnson, Dejan Kulusevski, Heung-min Son have played a lot more football now. Liverpool and Arsenal are heavily linked with Pedro Neto. Now, he predominantly plays on that right-hand side, which could give real competition to Arsenal and Liverpool for Bukayo Saka and Mohamed Salah. But what it also does for those teams is it allows them to rest Salah and to rest Bukayo Saka in those big games in the Premier League where they need to have a player fully fit. You've got a League Cup game midweek, or you've got a game against a lesser team where you know someone will bow you out and the team's relatively strong all over to go and beat the Burnleys, the Sheffield Uniteds, the Leicesters, the Palaces, the West Hams. It allows you to rotate a lot more. Whereas Pedro Neto at Tottenham, we would expect him coming into next season, the fact that we've got 38 league games, a minimum of 8 Europa League games. So that's already 46, plus an FA Cup, plus a League Cup. That's 48 games minimum. If Tottenham get to, let's say, the quarterfinals of the League Cup and the FA Cup, and Tottenham get out of the group, which you would expect them to get to at least the last 16 of the Europa League, before you know it, Tottenham have played 52 games a season. Looking at these individual numbers, it doesn't fill me with huge confidence. Now, on Pedro Neto, I do believe a lot of the injuries have been very, very unfortunate, with a knee injury and a hamstring injury. And there is a belief now that, similar to Reece James, a lot of those injury issues have now been fixed. In isolation, last season, 11 goal contributions in 20 games, including 9 assists. Very, 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 very good return. Now, the striker that we are looking at, anything in the Tottenham fan base is incredibly divided. It does not matter what you talk about in the Tottenham fan base. We are divided as could be. And this has just divided things a little bit more. And that name is Dominic Solanki. Had an unbelievable individual season last year with Bournemouth. 19 goals, 3 assists. Was very, 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 very good for Bournemouth last year. Now, Fabrizio Romano said on August the 1st, a few days ago, exclusive, Tottenham exploring a move for Dominic Solanki. He's among the targets for Spurs. Difficult deal as key player for Bournemouth. No formal bid to Bournemouth so far. Spurs exploring options to bring a new striker and potentially a new winger. And that new striker is Dominic Solanki, and that new winger is Pedro Neto. Now, Fabrizio Romano also gave an update earlier today saying that Tottenham have started exploring a deal for Dominic Solanki, as exclusively revealed last week. He is on the shortlist, and Spurs are well informed of the release clause, which is around £65 million. Initial talks took place. Bournemouth still hope to keep Solanki. Well, I can tell you for free right now, if Tottenham put £65 million on the table for a club like Bournemouth, no offence, they have to bite your arm off for it. The striker market at the moment is very, 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 very wild, I would say. Everything seems to be fluctuated. The prices for players are going for extremely high fees. Julian Alvarez is only about £15 million more than what Dominic Solanki would cost. That's how wild the striker market is. Dominic Solanki, though, is homegrown, Premier League proven. I don't think Tottenham can pay the wage demands that the likes of Conor Gallagher and Julian Alvarez have. And that's one of the reasons why Conor Gallagher has decided to join Atletico Madrid, due to those high wage demands. Dominic Solanki, however, his numbers in isolation, very good finisher in and around the 6-yard box. Tottenham will obviously create a hell of a lot more chances than a Bournemouth side. And this is why I believe the attacking plan could be genius. On the right, you got Brennan Johnson, Dejan Kulusevski, and Pedro Neto. Up front, you've got Richarlison and now Dominic Solanki potentially. On the left, you've got Timo Werner and you've got Heung-min Son. There aren't many attacks in the Premier League that are stronger than that. Aston Villa's maybe, Arsenal's, Man City's and Liverpool's. Now, when you look at the Premier League last season, in terms of goals scored, in terms of how many goals did Tottenham score overall, we was only outscored by Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Villa, Chelsea and Newcastle. But that was with injuries galore. Heung-min Son playing the Asian Cup. Richarlison broke his pubic bone. Brennan Johnson was out for 3 or 4 weeks. Dejan Kulusevski was the only player, and this is what I'm going to allude to on Dominic Solanki. Availability is the best ability. Now, I'm going to bring up what I think Tottenham could line up for the first game of the season, Monday night at the King Power Stadium, away to Leicester. I think this team is in and around that top 4, even closer. Son and Pedro Neto, you got width, you got pacing behind, you got the creative of Pedro Neto, you got the finishing ability of Son, you got the creative spark of James Maddison. If James Maddison now, for whatever reason, gets an injury, you can throw in a Mikey Moore, who is about to sign a professional contract, or a Bergvall. In midfield, you've got Sarr, Bissouma. You've also got the likes of Benton Core that can come in and play there. Worst comes to absolute worst, you've got Ollie Skip. You've got Bergvall that can play there as well. The defence, I think, is relatively settled. I don't think the reason why Tottenham conceded around 60 goals last season was because it was a bad defence. I think it was because the tactics at times were questionable. But that team, in my humble opinion, gets top 4. The only question mark I have is how is Ange Postecoglou going to rotate players every 3 or 4 days? Last season, some parts in the game we looked like we were jet lagged at times, fatigued, tired. This year now, we're going to have, you've obviously got Archie Gray as well in the midfield there. Sarr's going to be probably one of our most important players next season, in my opinion. But in terms of Tottenham, next season's going to be very, 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 very important. We've got a tough start to the campaign. A very, very tough start to the campaign. We've got one more pre-season game, Bayern Munich, which we will see Harry Kane back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And then before you know it, first game away to Leicester. That's going to be a tough game under the lights, in my opinion. You never want to get off against one of these promoted teams early doors. Then we got Everton. I expect Tottenham to get the 3 points. And then you got 2 very, very tough back-to-back games in Newcastle and in Arsenal. That, for me, is going to be very, very, very difficult. Very difficult. Then you've got Man United away 2 games time after that. It's a very, very tough start, which is why getting these 2 players over the line and another midfielder, and if we can, a fullback, in my humble opinion, puts us in the best possible chance to succeed next season. And I honestly believe Tottenham going into next season, I think will surprise a lot of people. I think we will surprise a lot of people. Ange Postecoglou has said he's come here for a title charge. Ange Postecoglou has said that he really wants Tottenham to now go out there and sign 3 or 4 players in the coming days/weeks. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. I genuinely feel Tottenham will have a good season. It's just, for me, that question mark about how we will rotate players in the midfield and the front line. Of course, defensive options, if Van de Ven gets an injury, you've got Phillips, because that hamstring is very, very questionable. You've got Radu Dragusin, who was a warrior for Romania. They got out the group at the Euros. Things look, in my opinion, relatively good going into next season for Tottenham. Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you drop a like. The road to 20k is well and truly on. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.